Hello and welcome to another Tech Articles. In today's article, we're going to look at FlowMattic version 5.1.0 and the release of the new email template builder. And I've pulled together a test environment here. So I found a free email template on this site here, and I've rebuilt a facsimile. It's not identical because I wanted to use all the different features in the FlowMattic email template builder. So you'll notice immediate differences when we head over, and I'm going to talk you through the template first, then I'm going to build you a workflow. I'm going to build a workflow with you that extracts some data using some snippets from Fluent CRM, and we'll talk about why I'm doing that later, that extracts our emails and our first names for our list, that will then iterate through that list and send an email, and we'll also add a new admin button or a new menu and button to our admin to allow us to send those newsletters. So in our example here, we're going to be an estate agent and we are sending apartments listings to people who are interested. So I'm going to head straight over to the email template in FlowMattic, and I've built it here, and this is a mix of sections, and you'll see why in a second. So for example, the first section here is a HTML section. So this container is a HTML section with a large block of HTML. Why HTML? And this is one of the reasons I'm using this rather than Fluent CRM's email builder, is it handles HTML so much better. So in my imaginary situation here, I expect this doesn't change very often. Maybe the link down here does, though, so we'll make that dynamic. So as you can see, there's a view online button here. I imagine that's a link to this newsletter as an online newsletter. That can be easily done. So I've put this in here, and the link for this is actually dynamic data. So that's fully dynamic. No one's ever going to have to come in there and change that HTML, but HTML is the best way of displaying that information. Whereas this is a heading. And the reason for that is because somebody might want to say, change it from now available to hot interest or something else for our particular property. So it's a heading, but again, it's got some dynamic data in it. The first of the dynamic data we're going to pull from Fluent CRM. The next one is an image, and if you see here, there is a nice image here of what this is. Actually, this image is again dynamic data. Now, the reason I've done this is to showcase the features of the FlowMattic email builder, but you might want to do A/B testing with different opening images, and this is one way you could do that A/B testing with those images. I've left these as what you would expect them to be. So this is a heading, this is a heading, this is a text block, a heading, and a button. And the button link is again dynamic data, more details. It gets interesting again when we get down to the list. Now you'll notice this looks very different to this. And as I said, I could have put this as a HTML block and made each one of these features dynamic data, but actually I don't think in the real world that's how it would work. I think you'd probably put a surrounding block around this. If I had more time, I'd probably put a surrounding container around this, stick something inside that container, put HTML in the container, and then make that affect this data here. But what I've done is I've used another feature of the email designer. These are actually markdown bullets. So I've turned them into markdown, and this means that when they get sent, they will become bullets. And we've got 6 pictures here, 5 of which are static, except for this one, which again, actually that one is static. One of them isn't static. Okay, they're all static actually. I haven't changed any of them to dynamic data. Let me have a look at the email template. Is that photo up here? It's this one here, isn't it? Okay, so we can change this one to be dynamic as well. So if we go to the template, we're going to go up here and grab our headline image. We're going to grab this tiny image here. We're going to change this URL to this data. And now this one is dynamic as well. We're going to save that so that it's done. And the call to action again is a heading, some text, and a button, with the button link being dynamic data, which is exactly how you'd build it in WordPress in general. And just like the heading I've decided that the footer probably won't change very much. So again, I've gone with raw HTML with a unsubscribe link being dynamic data. And that's basically our email template that we will be using in this flow. And it's based off this template available freely here. So you can recreate this yourself. And it really didn't take very long. So what does it look like? Well, that's what we're going to do next. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually go to my workflows. And I've already built this workflow out, but we're going to rebuild it. So I'm going to open this workflow and I'm going to come down here to send template. I'm going to show you the configuration. And down here we've got our dynamic data. So we've got our view link, our more details, our unsubscribe, the headline image, which we've also now put on the base, and our variable first name. And you'll notice there's nothing populating this currently. So I'm just going to populate that and save it. So it's going to come through our loop for array. We continue, save and close, and that should work now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send a dummy email. And I'm going to test that action. And that tells me it's sent. So I'm going to go over to my emails and we're going to look at that. And we've got it through, and you'll see here it says now available Dominic. And so Dominic was our name that we've pulled out. Our view link says viewlink.html. We've got our nice headline picture. Our more details show up down at the bottom here. So if you look down here, you'll see that our more details link shows. Same down here. And this is our dynamic data that we set as well, as does our unsubscribe.com. So our dynamic data is working. It's working exactly as it is. And the email is actually one of the emails from our list. We've only got 2 in our list, and we'll talk through that later. So I'm going to delete that now. So we've got clean emails for later. And we're going to go and we are going to go to WP Codebox. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this snippet if it's not already activated. So let's reload. This is going to add us a new button and menu to the tools menu. So if we go to the tools menu, currently you see what is contained in the tools menu. And if we reload the tools menu, you'll see we get this brand new menu item called send newsletter. And this is allowing us to add a FlowMattics trigger ID, save that, and then send our newsletter manually. Now we could automate this so that it works from a webhook or whatever, but I think for this example, I wanted to show you how useful these action triggers can be and how maybe you can start to think a bit more programmatically about how you do these things. So that's why this is here. The snippet will be on Tech Articles. I will write a blog post to go with this later, and we will come back and fill this. So I'm going to go back to WP Codebox. I'm going to activate our second snippet of the day. Now this snippet here is going to extract some details from Fluent CRM, and that is it's going to extract the first name and email pairs. And when I say extract from Fluent CRM, actually FlowMattics is going to extract it. This is going to take the JSON that FlowMattics gets and turn it into a usable list. So I'm going to save that now. Now I'm going to head to Fluent CRM. And this is Fluent CRM free. This is not the pro version. And you'll notice that the emails we send aren't branded Fluent CRM because they're not going through Fluent CRM. That is easy enough to turn off, but actually, in this case, we're not using Fluent CRM except to contain the details. FlowMattics is doing the heavy lifting here. So if we go to our list, you see we've got our new list, which is the list we're going to be using. And we have 2 subscribers. One is me and one is Dominic. So we've got 2 email addresses, 2 users, which means we should get 2 emails when we've got this flow running. And that's pretty much our introduction done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to build this out. And I'm not going to open the workflow that we have here. I'm going to recreate this so that you can see how it's done, why it's done, and then we can talk through how, for example, you could replace your Fluent CRM extraction and these steps here to pull your data from, for example, Google Sheets, or you might want to pull that data from Airtables or any of those other programs where you can keep such a list. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to workflows and we're going to create a new workflow. And we have our new workflow. So the first thing I'm going to do is change our action. And our action in this case is going to be a custom action. and we want a custom action, and we want to go to continue, and you'll see that it gives us a bit of code. We need this bit here. So I'm going to copy that, I'm going to push continue, I'm going to save and close. And the next thing I'm going to do is open up my tools and my send net newsletter. I'm going to open that in another tab, and I'm going to paste that FlowMattic trigger ID in here and save it. And that's it. We now have that saved. So the first thing I want to do now is head back to our new workflow, and we're going to do a capture response. So we're now doing a capture response. We're going to go back to our send FlowMattic newsletter, and we're going to push our send newsletter button. All being well, it should now trigger that workflow, which it has. We've got a response. There's nothing in the response because basically it's not programmed to do that. All this is being used as is a trigger. So we're going to save and close. Everything's working there. We're going to publish our workflow just so we don't forget to do it later. And we're going to call this sending newsletter. So that's our first step done and dusted. The next thing we need to do is a Fluent CRM action, because that's where we're storing our data. As I said earlier, you could actually store your data in, for example, a Google Sheet or an Airtable. And you could have two columns and pull those columns out into the same sort of list to send through FlowMattic. So you don't have to use Fluent CRM. I've used Fluent CRM because I don't like the email designer in Fluent CRM. I don't feel that it handles HTML very well. I do feel that the HTML templates in FlowMattic handle it much, much better. And actually the introduction of Markdown, etc. makes it much more fluid. And you've just seen how easy it is for me to substitute dynamic data for photos and images and icons. You can't really do that with Fluent CRM. It's not as robust an email sender. So we're just going to use Fluent CRM in this example as our data collection because it's on the site, it's easy. We can put the data in it easy, we can get it out easy with FlowMattic. Why wouldn't we? So Fluent CRM is what we're going to do. Then we've got to do an action. And in this case, I think we need to do get contacts by list ID. And we know we're on list 1 because we saw that earlier. So I'm going to add a list here. Now there's an easy way of doing that. It's already there because it pulls the data directly from Fluent CRM for us. So we want new, and that's list ID 1. And we now go through this action. So we push continue, and I'm going to test this action just to see what we get. And we get two quite large arrays of data. And this is the one we're actually going to use, our all contacts array. But we've got our, and you can just get your all contacts array, I believe, by returning all contacts JSON only. But in this case, I'm not going to bother. I'm going to leave them as individuals as well. We've only got 2. It doesn't make any difference. So we're going to save and close. And now we're going to use our first of our second of our snippets. So I'm going to just check it is enabled by going to WP Codebox and extract first and email. And while I'm here, I'm going to copy this function name. So go back to our workflow. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put a PHP function in. And that's this one. We're going to call a PHP function. We just copy the name, so that's easily done. We know we need to send individual variables. I believe it was params. And the variable we need to send is that all contact array, which is this one here. And we want to pass it as it is. And I'm going to test that. And we don't get any data. And I think that's because usually I send them as individual variables. And in this case, I think originally I sent them as an array. So I'm going to do it as a single array. So we're going to send a parameters array to the PHP rather than as individual variables. It contains parameters and our output, and hopefully we get some data this time. And we do. So there you go. That was my mistake. For this particular snippet, you don't send them as individual variables. You send them as a single array. So what I'm going to do now is we've got our data. So that looks good. And what we're going to do, as with any large amount of data where you're doing one thing with it, we're going to start an iterator. And that's relatively easy to do. We're going to go iterator, loop through an array. We're going to go configure, and we're going to select our array. which is this one here. And in this case, I've got 2, so I'm going to do direct processing. If you've got 50,000, you might want to do batch processing and do it in very small batches of, say, 300 or 400 emails at a time. It's all going to depend on your email server and all of those bits and pieces, and that's far outside the scope of this particular video, but I can do a video on that in the future if somebody wants that. Not that I've got a email list of that sort of size. So we've now got our data here, and I think it's time that we start to build our email template. So we're going to go to here and to email, and we're going to select the new option of send template email, and we're going to go to configure. And in my case, I've got I think I've got Sure SMTP on here, so I'm going to use WP default. From my from name, I'm going to use webform at webform buddy, because that is one of my authorized senders, and I'm going to leave that as it is. My to email I'm going to take from my loop through array, which I haven't completed. So let's save this. Go here and test our array. So we get our data out, we'll save and close, we'll go back to our template, and hopefully that's now appeared and we can use it. So loop through array, and there we go. So we want to send our email to that email address, and you'll see here we've got our options to select which email template we want, and we want build out, and as our subject, a new property available will be our subject, and we're going to build out our variables. So our view link, we are just going to do that. We're just going to put view.link. We're going to do the same for more details. We'll do the same for unsubscribe. Now, obviously, you'd use real items in these. I do have this headline image on a document somewhere, so let me just copy and paste it. Here it is. So this will be our headline image, and our first name is going to come from our iterator. Now, technically, we are done. I'm going to test that action. In a few seconds, we should get an email through here. The message has been sent, and we'll go and check it in our email box. Now, technically, we're done. We are not doing anything else after we've done this iterator. We do not have to close this iterator. Personally, I always end my iterators. The reason being, if you get into the habit of ending an iterator, you will not forget to end it in workflows where you have to end it because you're doing something else after the iterator. So I am going to put an end to our iterator in there because to me it is good practice. You don't have to because you're not doing anything after, and it will work regardless. So I'm going to save our workflow, and we've built our FlowMattics workflow, and I'm going to go over to my emails and I'm going to see what this looks like. So show images, and you'll see here we've got our images. It says now available Dominic. We know it's come to the right email address. We've got our view online to go into view.link, our more details going to more details. We've got our other inserted images. You see there's a slight difference in the way that they're formatted. That's because this is dynamically formatted, and it's probably actually the image that was in here originally was probably a different image than what is up here because it's for a slightly different layout. And then we've got our more details down here and an unsubscribe link down here. So that's all working exactly as it is. But that's just one email to one email address, and we know we've got 2. So we need to test that. I'm going to delete that, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head back over to our workflow. I'm going to go down to our tools menu, and we're going to use our new button. I'm going to push send newsletter, and we've sent our newsletter. Newsletter has been successfully triggered. We're going to go to FlowMattics and history. You'll see here that we've got a success. We're going to view down, and you can see that it's sent 2 emails, which means that worked. We're going to head over to our email address, you can see we've received 2 emails. We're going to show those emails images, and we've got one to Dominic at test, and we've got one to me at test 2. The details are the same along the piece, but actually we have sent 2 emails, we've sent 2 newsletters, and it is pretty dynamic. We can change out that image. You could run more than one version of this. You could even add a step in to your workflow as an example. So let's go back to our workflow. Workflows, sending newsletter. You could add a step here in your iterator that would randomize which image, for example, you were going to put, and you could A/B test that. There's all sorts of options available to you here, but this is a basic overview of how you would send a list to using the new newsletter that you've just built to your list without using Fluent CRM. As I said, you don't have to use Fluent CRM. I would probably still build my list on Fluent CRM, even if I wasn't going to use it to send the emails, because actually, for me, it's really good at building those lists. It's really easy to put the data in. It's on the site. It works. You could quickly edit the list. It's good for editing the list and sending. But as I said, you could use an Airtable or a Google Sheet, and that works. And as for the email template itself, you've seen how easy it is to add stuff in there, and how the power of this blocks. I've literally found a template and I've rebuilt it in the blocks in various different manners. It's not hard for us to change this up. If I want to, for example, swap those around, really easy to do. I want the footer at the top, and I can do that. It would help if I actually selected the footer though. So the footer at the top, I could actually do that. Same as if I wanted to put this after. Maybe we want the headline image first. It's all very much editable. You can change your colors, and I could do a more in-depth video of maybe even rebuilding this if that's what somebody wants. But the purpose of the video is to show you just how powerful this actually is. It's not necessarily in building emails. It's the fact that, like everything in FlowMattic, it's dynamic, and equally, like everything in FlowMattic, you can use PHP with it. And I think that's the biggest benefit of FlowMattic over its competitors. The fact that you can use your own functions and actions and begin to think of these things programmatically is one of your strongest weapons when it comes to using FlowMattic. Well, I hope that video has been useful. It turned out a bit longer than I expected it to be, but there's a quick overview and a built-out flow of using the new email template builder and sending our first newsletter. Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.